Hi everyone, my name is Rana and you are watching Culture Diaries. Now today on the show, our guest is a prolific singer-songwriter whose music is both poetry and melody all rolled into one. He is none other than Brymo. Welcome.
Hello.
Thank you for being here. You know
Thank you for having
you're
me.
like a busy superstar.
I did try.
So I feel like when Brymo agreed, I was like, yay!
Well, for one and you know.
You're one of those artists who has had your triumphs, your downfalls publicly documented, pretty much. And I wanted to just ask you, so with all of that and going from, label to transitioning to the kind of music that you decided you wanted to make, and actually still getting the embrace of listeners. I mean, how did that feel for you? And did you expect it?
It felt, this is a very important question, in 2013, when I decided to sort of evolve my sound, I knew it was going to be difficult to be accepted, especially because at that point in time, everyone was leaning more towards making content that was more commercially acceptable. You have to keep your lyrics simple enough, even when you're telling stories. It has to be really straightforward, so that people can just get it and digest it and enjoy it immediately. So infusing poetry into all of that melody was going to be tough. But fortunately, I had a scandal to write on. So,
as they say, no publicity is bad
you know
publicity.
what I'm saying? So I feel like without all of that drama, maybe it would have been actually more difficult. It would have been more difficult to sell the sound. So I won't lie to you. I think the drama, the fights, the war, all that madness was actually part of what contributed to the success.
But did you have any anxieties at all? Because, I mean, it's such a huge transition. There's a formula for success in Nigeria. And you tested it. And then it's like you decide to go from being successful to being, like you're going on the hungry path, so to speak. So what were the anxieties that came with that?
When I was a lot younger, my father used to tell me that fear sometimes is exactly what you need, is the tool you need to be able to grow, to be able to evolve. And I think maybe at some point I just took all of that fear, and whenever the anxiety was at its peak, I would just pick up a pen and just write down some lyrics and just kept writing songs. And it felt like the longer I lived with the fear, the more I got used to it. And over time, everything just started to wear off, and then I started to be able to smile again. Then I don't know. I think it was just patience, waiting through that period of time, and it wasn't more than a year. After a year, everything just started to change again. So I feel, and then fortunately, the very first album I made independently, Merchants, Dealers, and Slaves, we couldn't release for a long time. It took almost 4 to 5 months before Alaba could release it. It took another longer while before, in fact, we were getting petition from iTunes to put the album down. So all of that, I think, as soon as we went past that phase, nothing could stop me anymore. It was like, okay, waiting won't happen again now. You know what I'm saying? So
You're also this artist who I feel like, your followers and your fans and your listeners are like, it's like a cult. It's literally, you're almost like a community project as well. So everyone, it's always just word of mouth. Have you listened to Brymo's new album? Have you, they get the song even before it's released. And everyone's talking about it. There's a show, everyone's talking about the show. I almost feel like you don't even need to do as much advertising as most people do, because your people will show up.
Yeah.
They'll be there. Yeah. And they're quite obsessed with your music as well. Do you ever fear that could be restrictive in your own growth?
No, it's never restrictive. It's I feel like the followers of Brymo, what they're actually after is that expression, that expression. Because when you listen to Merchants, Dealers, and Slaves, it was really dark and it's very sad, very moody music, very angry, And then with Tabula Rasa, I managed to infuse humor in telling my truth. But with the latest album, Clitoris, there is more fun to it. And but more importantly, the 3 albums have expression. They are very expressive. Even when I'm saying something that's supposed to be really ordinary, I find a way to make it sound like, oh my God, what's this guy saying? You know, so I feel like my fans are after that expression. So it becomes necessary for me to, however, not be scared to try out new themes, try out new ideas, and tell my new truth and tell my new stories, you know. And I feel like as long as I keep doing that, my fans will always find a way to connect with the sound, you know. It becomes restrictive when I start to become afraid of trying something new.
Have you ever had those moments where you're making an album? Because I'm just curious about what your process is like when you're in the studio and you're writing and you're making this work, and it can be a very insecure thing, you know. Will people like it? Will people not like it?
I pretty much don't censor myself when I write. I use materials that I like. So I could be putting together an album for 12 tracks, and then I have maybe 18 to 25 songs, and I'm only looking for 12. So I think the hardest part is to listen to myself sing the songs and then decide, I prefer this. So what I usually do is, I don't use songs that are less than a year old. So I always have songs for at least a year before I start to record for a project. So at the end of the day, I spend close to 2 years on every album.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so what I do is I just have...
So not the 2 months, just go into the studio, not that.
Yeah. Because I've tried that before, and then after a while, I listen to the song, I don't like it anymore.
Yeah.
So to avoid that feeling, I'll keep all of the songs I have for at least a year. So the last song I'm going to record on my next album will be at least a year old when I record it. So that means there will be songs on the album that are like a year and 6 months old, a year and 8 months old, sometimes even over 2-year-old songs. And so as long as I can do that and I can like the song after a year, I feel like people can also like it.
Your music has always been very literary in nature. It's always been about telling a story and infusing a story, and there's lots of amazing metaphors and, you know, poetic devices in them as well. And some people can see that as especially in this sort of current musical climate, it can be seen as quite dated. You actually did mention that, you know, everything has to follow a certain formula. And how did that start for you? Because even when you were doing extremely commercial music, you still had that element in there somehow. And how did that start for you? Is that something about your childhood or the way in which you grew up, or the people that you listened to that influenced that way of writing?
Yeah, I think it's everything wrapped up in one. My father is a Muslim, so, and he's like, he's very, very principled. So I don't even think it's about his religion. I think it's just about him. My father is the only man I know, a Yoruba Muslim man with one child who doesn't have another wife. You know what I'm saying? So he could have gotten another wife and other children. But for some reason, he just felt he couldn't go through that stress. If he's going to have only one child, then so be it. So I grew up pretty much, my father, when something happens, my father don't slap your bum first. He asks questions, you know. And no matter how bad the scene looks, if he can question you and find out that you are right, he's just going to leave you alone. You know, so I think I grew up with all of that around him. And then my mom was the singer. So she would convert every Fuji music, you know, and put her lyrics in it. And so I feel like maybe growing up around both of them, I was able to imbibe certain thought processes and cultures. So when I became a teenager and it was time to start surviving, a lot of my friends started making money as early as possible, but I wasn't sure yet what I wanted to do. So I'm always like the late boomer, always taking my time, and I think that's still with me till now. You know, so it's not really about trying to be a saint or trying to not be a sinner. No, that's not what it is. It's about getting what I want and peacefully sitting down to enjoy it afterwards. You know, so I think the upbringing was about when you're chasing something, chase it with so much caution and so much patience that when it finally comes, you can actually take it, sit back, relax, and tell everybody, I've worked for this, you know, as opposed to finding success and now running around hiding from the people who gave you the success. You know what I'm saying? And so I don't believe in the more money, more problem theory. I think you can actually find success and sit comfortably and breathe and enjoy it. But that takes patience.
I think following your career, it's clearly obvious as well that you've had or even been forced to redefine success for yourself a few times. And I want to know about that process for you. And, you know, one minute you're doing, you know, you're super successful, this big, massive artist embraced by the mainstream, embraced by everybody. And then you go into becoming not just independent, but sort of seen as alternative and, you know, move from mainstream to almost like cult following, niche markets, all of those sort of things. And I can imagine that that transition has its own difficulties, and we've talked about the anxieties as well. But I want to know about, you know, having to redefine what success means for you, because you've tasted that champagne life, you know. So I want to know if you've ever found yourself redefining it for yourself as you've gone along now, especially with every album.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very long question to answer. In the sense that
we have time. You are saying we have your time.
in the sense that when I came into the industry, I didn't know what was going on. I just started making music, and I depended on a structure created by someone else to milk that content. And but after a short while, I must tell you, I found out that there was no structure. There was no structure. The industry survived off individual efforts. You know, a lot of individuals doing what they can for themselves, and little has been done to ensure that everybody's, the practitioners of this business in the entertainment industry, for instance, that their rights are protected within that industry. Very little has been done. Look at the music industry, for instance, the price of albums, the royalty system. These are the two primary sources of income for musicians. And the last time I checked, Alaba was going to pay me 5 naira per album sold. Wow. You know, and so these were the things that I found were wrong. And the record labels, the artists, the managements, nobody was really doing much about it. And we were being given contracts that don't support the structure of the business, you know. So by the time I was leaving the mainstream and starting out, I was starting out because I knew that the industry needed a structure. And if it could not be created for everyone, I was going to create it for myself. Okay. So that in the future, upcoming acts can actually sort of benefit from it. People can actually look at what I did and be like, this is what Brymo did, and we're going to do it. So really from 2013, my aim has become to become the most successful Nigerian artist of all time here in Nigeria, to make records and sell them in millions and make profit from them and say, this album sold this number of copies and this was my profit from it. So that was the actual aim. And that actually requires what you just said right now, having a following, an actual following. You know, if a certain soft drink or soda is selling so much, it's because there's a large people buying it. You know, there are certain companies we know in this country, if they manage to sell 1,000 bottles a day, they will close. So they must continue to sell thousands of bottles, 10,000, 100,000 bottles daily if possible, to be able to pay the workers in the factory, to be able to pay the CEO and all of the executives of that company. And that's what business is about. So people think music is different. If you're a musician who is not pushing millions of records, who is not selling out concerts for thousands of people, you are not successful. I don't care who's giving you money. And that is the problem we have here. So people don't necessarily make money from their primary sources, which is record sales and gigs that they actually put together, and there's thousands of people coming to see you at the stadium. We don't see them before for Lagos. You know.
I'm not saying
so the question boils down to, where are the musicians making money from? So I wanted to be different. I wanted to be free, to be able to count my blessings and to be able to say, this is what we did and this is the result we got, and then to be able to reinvest, like every business is.
But aside from music, how do you define success for yourself now?
Success, first of all, will always involve the number of people, those 1 or 2 people you meet on your way out will tell you, your music has touched me. I think that has always been the first key and most important thing. When I was quite younger, people just told me, when you sing, I like it. It sort of gives this calm feeling. You have a very warm voice. I'd be like, thank you, thank you. And then after a while, that wasn't enough anymore. What's the use of a voice? I mean, I came into an industry where there were like 1,000 voices. People would say, this one has a fine voice, that one has a fine voice. So I knew having a lovely voice was not good enough anymore. So it was time to actually start saying something with that voice. And now, when I meet people and they be like, yo, this is amazing. When I'm working, I listen to your music. When I'm driving, it really calms me down. So I think that's first and most important success for me. And then more importantly, the number of people following my music, the number of people who are going to go online and pay and download the music, who will go into a store and pick up a record. I think that also follows closely as success. So the number of people who will do that for me, who will come out to see my gigs, that is a measure of my success.
All right. Songs. I've been privy to being with you when you're a fan or a follower or a lover of your music is with having a conversation with you, and they literally deconstruct your lyrics. I mean, I don't know very many artists that get that opportunity.
It's amazing.
You know, to have that sort of interaction with people that follow their music or consume their music. Like they're actually, unpacking and deconstructing layers and layers and layers of music. And I can imagine it's a wonderful feeling. For me, two of my favorite songs, it has to be Eko and Alaja Shomolu. I love Eko because I'm a poet, so I think the poet in me is just like, oh wow, he does the whole personification thing with the woman, Lagos as a woman, and this love affair with this city and all of those sort of things, and which I absolutely love. What are some of the songs that you do that people like get really like sort of hyped up? Because I think every artist has that one track. You want to do your new songs, but there's some particular songs that they go crazy about. What are some of those songs, and why do you think it is that they keep falling in love with it or feel the need to want to deconstruct and unpack it with you?
Yeah, there must be songs like Down, like 1 Pound.
Yeah.
Like No Get Shoulder. So,
you know my thoughts on that
song. Of course, people like Eko a lot.
Yes.
And of course, not taking away songs like Ara and Good Morning.
Yeah.
I think people follow those songs for different reasons. But the most amazing part is my thoughts exactly when I was writing, usually part of the reason why people like those songs. And it could be for anything, like for Eko right now, like you said, a lot of people like the fact that I was actually comparing Lagos to a woman, and also the fact that everybody is coming to Lagos to be successful anyway. So it gets across to people on every level. And 1 Pound, that's also like a love song, and with that street anthem to it. So I think basically there's always that 2-3 different sides to those songs. So people sort of are attracted to that. The storytelling is quite unique. Telling a story while being poetic about it. When I started writing music, I was able to tell stories, but I was not able to construct my sentences in such a way that when you listened, you would be like, whoa, that's nice. I was not able to do that. It was so ordinary. It was so straightforward storytelling. But I think as I got older, they evolve now. So I sort of evolved into being able to construct the words to make it sound intelligent, even as I'm trying to infuse melody into it.
Well, what are some of the things that have influenced your songwriting in particular? Because of course, music is very wide, but I'm interested in knowing, does literature inform it in any way? Because you talked about how the struggles at first, trying to construct certain sentences and sort of infusing that with melody. Yeah. Do you have any other influences other than music that has helped your songwriting?
Oh yes, yes. Every form of art. Sometimes it could just be a painting. Sometimes it could be another musician's song, especially most other musicians' songs. Yeah, and after a while, I started to pay more attention to content. But then I noticed that most musicians who create content, they are lacking in the melody department. So people will say, the music is great, but there's no wow factor. Yeah. There's nothing that will make someone go, I can play this song all day, So I wanted to actually have that balance, to be able to get someone hooked on the melody while they are actually enjoying the message from the song. So I think it could just be inspiration from anything. But more importantly, I started to do a lot of reading. I started to listen to people who have been renowned for content. I started listening to the likes of Fela Anikulapo. I started listening to Frank Sinatra, I listened to a lot of John Mayer, a lot of Coldplay, a lot of, locally I listened to Asha, I listened to, who else? Youssou N'Dour from Senegal, yeah, so, because, it's really simple. When you identify with a certain crowd, you become like them.
This is true.
Oh, wow, that's quite a lot of songs. I think it would be Frank Sinatra's My Way, John Mayer,
okay,
and Apple.
Why?
Because doctor said it keeps Doctors away.
For somebody that is writing deep songs, I was expecting some kind of layered.
Bullheaded. For a day, I'd like to be Nigeria's president.
Can you handle it? Nigeria is tough.
Try me. That would be Madonna. Don't cry for me, Argentina.
That is such an odd song to choose.
Yeah, that's like my favorite song that I never remember.
Oh, really?
Like, I just remember now.
It's a good song,
It's
though.
amazing.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
a really good song.
My biggest regret is to never, how do I put it? It's an ongoing thing, you know? So maybe when I'm 60, I'll be able to say, maybe I've solved the problem. To be able to remove entropy from my relationships. To be able to keep things going smoothly without them breaking down and being destroyed eventually.
Are you sure it's not the artist in you?
Maybe.
Who is a self-saboteur?
Maybe.
Because you needed to write good songs.
Maybe. I don't know.
You need to change that. You need to change that.
Yeah, our art can change the world. Yeah, it can. How do I put it? It can very much change the world, but like everything else, the artist gets caught up in the business of being an artist, and then everything becomes complicated, yeah, and becomes a business. But in this purest form, art can actually really change the world. Like, if artists would actually let some of their financial returns, if they can actually look past it,
Okay.
yeah, we could actually do a lot with art. One time I met someone who just walked up to me and said, oh yes, I think it was at the last Organized Chaos. So there was a man there who came with his wife, and he said that was the first time his wife was smiling in like a month.
Wow.
That he was so happy that he just found out about the tickets a few days before, and he told her, and she was like, oh, okay, she would like to go. And then they came there and he said he's so happy that his wife is happy, and I've made his wife happy, and I've saved his marriage.
Wow.
You know, so I was telling my friends right there, I was saying, man, see, I'm saving relationships.
I know. At this point. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate you being here, and I had such a blast. I hope you had a good time.
Of course.
Yay.
Of course. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Big, massive thank you to Bryman for coming in on the Culture Diaries set today. Don't forget that you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure you give us a thumbs up as well. All the information about our artists and about us will be at the bottom of the screen, scrolling right now. And we'd like to give a massive shout out to Sus Productions for giving us the beautiful studio. Don't forget, until next time, art is life.